Hi everyone. They're bailing the field below me here, so if you hear a bunch of clunking, that's what it is. I just finished watching Dan Courtney's recent upload, Presuppositionalism, Fallacy and Failure. And Dan does a good job in there. He's far more of an academic than I am, so I'm not going to try to add too much to what he said there. I'll leave that stuff to him. But I did want to touch on a couple of points, and basically this has to do with the whole topic I've been engaged in the last little while here of theists and honesty. And so in Dan's video, he talks a little bit about this whole concept of brain fizz. So as some of you may be aware, a lot of theists like to say that, well, science has said that, you know, our thoughts are basically complex chemical reactions. And so if that's the case, then the analogy is made to a can of Dr. Pepper and a can of Mountain Dew. And if you were to shake them up, this is basically a chemical reaction and you're going to get some fizz. Is one of those fizz true and one false? How do you get truth from fizz, or in this case, brain fizz? Now, of course, at the very least, you know, if thoughts are a complex chemical reaction, you couldn't analogize that with the somewhat simple chemical reaction of a can of pop. But, you know, obviously it's much worse than that. Now, Dan Courtney does a good job of sort of listing out the different fallacies involved in this analogy. And again, he's the academic, I'll leave that to him. But for me, it's a simple case of a straw man. Because I think what they're doing is they're misrepresenting what science has said on the matter, and I think they know it. And I think they're banking on the fact that the average layperson, to them, thoughts, their concept of thoughts, is very, very mysterious and nebulous, and they don't understand it. And so it's an easy argument for them to make. And as I've always said, I think presuppositional apologetics is an apologetic for the low-hanging fruit. And so that's what they're after here. And again, I just think it's disingenuous. I think it's a fallacious argument, and I think they know it. But it's an easy one for them to make. And further in that vein, I keep getting comments on my King Crocoduck versus Ray Comfort video of people saying, no, you should be able to explain it in layman's terms. And I would actually go as far as to say I don't think Ray Comfort cares to learn any of this stuff, even if you did explain it in layman's terms. I don't think he cares to learn about phylogenetics or cladistics or any of that kind of stuff at all. In fact, I think, you know, really all he cares about is, can one kind change into another? The whole rest of evolutionary theory, he could give a flying you-know-what about, because it doesn't challenge his worldview. So I don't think even if you did say, well, I'll explain this stuff to you if you like, I'll go through and explain what cladistics are, I think his eyes would still glaze over because he doesn't care to know. And so again, I think that whole thing is disingenuous. You know, just like the concept of kinds. I keep seeing people say, no, kinds is a relevant term. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, as much as I know about the theory of evolution and science in general, terms like that don't have a lot of relevance because they're nowhere near specific enough. You can tell how much knowledge there is in a body of study by the specificity of the language, right? The more specificity there is in the language, the more is understood, and the more cataloging and just mounds and mounds of data are involved. Because what happens is, you know, you have to start filling in gaps. As you gain information, you say, well, here's something that isn't classified by this term or this term, and we have to create a new term. And then you'll find something in between those terms. Now you've got to define a new term, and so on and so on. And so the highly specific nature of scientific language is really just a demonstration of the mountain of evidence and information that is contained in those studies. So I think it's disingenuous to run around saying, no, kinds is still a relevant term, because as far as I'm concerned, I just don't think that it really is. Thanks everyone for watching.